Before you decide to change curriculum, watch this video and go through the 3 things with me. This may change your mind. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler, and today we're going to talk about changing curriculum and the 3 things that I look at before I decide to change curriculum. And if you're debating it, watch this video because this might help you make up your mind. Before I get into the video, make sure that you hit the like and the subscribe button, and down below in the description box I have a link to our free Facebook group where you can talk to thousands of other Facebookers who are also homeschool parents, and I'm in there, of course. All right, so let's jump into the 3 things that I consider before switching curriculum. Personally, I have switched different subjects around until I found the right fit for each subject. So I'm what they call an eclectic homeschooler, meaning I don't use one brand for every single subject. The thing that I'm concerned about the most when it comes to homeschooling and what my kids are doing is how they are personally using the curriculum. Is it something that they are learning with, developing with, and that they're doing well in, and that they enjoy? So we're going to take a look at some of these things, and every year I tend to reassess, and it's about that time of year. It's springtime. I'm already thinking about the fall. The homeschool sales are starting, and I'm already seeing stars with some of these other curriculums, and we're going to go through the main 3 points that I look at before jumping ship. Okay, so first, consider what it is or why it is that you want to change. Now, this might be really hard and you might have to do a little bit of soul searching here, but stay with me. There has to be a reason why you want to change curriculum. There are all kinds of reasons why a homeschool parent would want to change. Maybe it's the price point. Maybe you're worried that you can't afford it for next year. Maybe it's you're not enjoying it as a parent. Maybe your kids aren't enjoying it. Maybe there's a lot of whining going on around that time of day when you have to do that subject. Maybe it's disorganized, or maybe you can never find the pages. There's tons of reasons why you might want to change, and I totally get that. We all have that time, I think, where we tried a curriculum and it just did not work, or it wasn't what we were expecting, or maybe we had really high hopes for it to be like this magical thing because it worked for another family and it just fell flat. So consider why it is you want to change. Write down those reasons on a piece of paper, and then keep that beside you for a little while. Sometimes, hear me out, sometimes if you just kind of keep your head down and just keep moving, sometimes it does get better. Sometimes the curriculum can get through that like muddy period. And yes, a lot of curriculum has that just like dull period where you're just not, it's just not your thing, or your kids are just not really doing well with it. And then they move on to a new concept, and then it's like the heavens open up. So sometimes you might just need to get through that concept that you're in, or that chapter that you're in, and then, you know, maybe the next semester it's a totally different story. So write down those reasons, keep them by you, and just hold on to it for a little while, and just keep those in the back of your mind while you consider these other 2 points. So the next point that I want to make, and the next thing you really need to ask yourself is, are my kids learning? For me, that's one of the biggest points. Are my kids learning what they need to learn? A curriculum can be super fun and super exciting, but if my kids are not learning what they need to learn in that subject, that's going to be a problem for me. And that might be a reason why I switch. I actually switched because of that reason in the middle of this school year. I have not announced it because I'm not sure how to really go about it just yet, but I changed over one of our core subjects because of that. And while the curriculum that they were doing was not bad, I didn't disagree with it, you know, biblically or anything like that. It's not a bad curriculum. I had children who were not learning the subject that they were supposed to be learning. They were learning other things. And this went on and on and on and on. And there was no end in sight to when they would actually use their textbooks again. So, all things considered, you have to look at, are they learning? Are they actually going through the textbooks but maybe not retaining that information? Or are they failing their tests? That's another big one. That's another sign that something's not right here. That is also something to consider when you're going through curriculum changes and you're really mulling over, do I need to change or not? So that's something to really consider. How are your kids learning? And that's a big one because that's one of the things that matters the most. I mean, we homeschool our children because we want to teach them and we want them to learn. So we need to make sure that they're doing that. We need to make sure that they're learning. So the last point I want to make is, do we hate it? So I've gone through a lot of different curriculum companies to try to find the right fit, almost like a puzzle for each different subject for my child to make up an entire education. And in that quest to find those right fits, and sometimes something fits at one point in their life and it doesn't when they get older, that's totally fine. What I have found is that sometimes we hate it for a little while, and I think that that's normal for a lot of different companies. Our kids are personal and unique to us. Each one is different. Your kids are going to be totally different than my kids and vice versa. That's normal, you know, everybody is different. Every kid is different. Every child learns different. So sometimes we get starry-eyed and we want something to work really bad and it just doesn't. So what I like to consider is our attitudes when we go into that subject. Is it just a nightmare? And you know, we really went through this with Becca for a little while, and it was just really hard to get through because of the writing portion. And when we added in IEW and when we added in Night Zookeeper to help especially my youngest learn how to write, oh, the whole world changed. And Becca suddenly was no more a problem. And we loved IEW. IEW has been so fantastic for my kids. But what I'm saying is before, we might have just considered changing curriculum altogether and just totally nixing Becca. But here's the thing, we didn't need to do that. What we needed was a solution to the actual problem. So sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't work. It all depends on the situation, what it is specifically, and things like that. So really when it comes down to it, it just depends on how much are we liking or disliking that certain subject. Now here's one situation. Sometimes you're gonna hate it, but your kids love it. And sometimes they're gonna hate it, but you like it. So I have to consider and ask myself what it is that they hate or that I hate personally about it. And this is when I really, really encourage you to have open discussions with your children about their education, about their curriculum. So I encourage this a lot at my house. I do check-ins probably once a semester, I would say. I will ask my kids like, hey, how are you liking this right now? Are you doing okay in it? Do you have any concerns? And they will tell me open and honestly. And I urge them to be honest about it because they know that if they really dislike it, they will tell me and I'll change them. I'll change the curriculum for them. And you know, you want to have that open dialogue with your kids because it encourages those conversations. It encourages them to be honest with you, and they'll know that you have their back as their parent and educator. So really start looking at that, especially if your kids are older. It's a really good idea to do this. I talk with my youngest, and we've been talking about this since probably first or second grade. I will ask him like, hey, what do you think of this one? And he'll tell me if he loves it or hates it. Kids can be very brutally honest when they're young about something. So have those conversations, even if they're young, and just do a check-in with them and see how they're doing. Now, the older kids, you know, they're gonna have tests and things, and you're gonna be able to measure, you know, with that, how well they're retaining the information, how well they're doing with their grades and things like that. The younger kids, sometimes they don't have, tests for you to really use that as a measuring rod. So you might need to have those kinds of conversations with them to kind of see how they're doing and if they love it or if they hate it. So really look into that, because sometimes they might surprise you. I know I've been surprised a couple of times. So it is a really fun journey homeschooling. However, you really get to know your kids too. So I really found what they liked and disliked with these conversations. And it was really easy for me to kind of figure out the next step for them when I figured out what they were struggling with and how to fix that problem when we had that open dialogue. So just like the Abeka situation, I found out it wasn't Abeka that they hated, it was the writing portion, because they were struggling with, how do I write? They want me to write, but I don't know how to write. I don't know how to get what's in here on the paper. So I was able to find a solution to that specific problem. And in doing that, it eased the tension of all their other subjects, especially when it came to grammar, writing, composition with Abeka. So look at asking some of these questions with your kids and see what they say. You never know. You might be really surprised. Hopefully this video was super helpful for you as we all go into curriculum buying season. I know it's probably getting crazy out there. I know I'm looking at all the sales. There's all kinds of sales and things going on everywhere. So I hope that was a help for you. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.